All right. So let's start with our beginning meditation. Close your eyes. And as you hear the sound of the bell, just let it grab your attention, bring your attention to this moment. And then as the bell fades, just stay here. And we'll begin by taking 3 deep, relaxing breaths together. First deep breath in. And exhale. Second breath in. And exhale. Third breath in. And exhale. Now continue breathing deeply but gently into your abdomen. And as you do, let your body relax. Come very present into this moment. That doesn't mean think about this moment. It means stop thinking about this moment. Just be here. Welcome, welcome, everyone, to Satsang. Good to see you. You know, what I'm trying to do as a teacher is to really point you toward a very specific experience, okay? I'm not here trying to fill your head up with information. I'm trying to pull the drain plug on your head and drain all the information out, okay? You need understanding so that you can realize that you don't need understanding, if that makes sense. But you need the understanding first so that you can throw it all away. So that's why we're here. I really, really like questions a lot. I encourage you to ask me questions. If you are practicing and you are studying some of the things that we're talking about in Satsang, you will have millions of questions. Okay? Don't be afraid to ask them. There's an interesting thing that I'm noticing as I'm working with students, that many of us have done lots and lots of work, studied lots of different things, and yet no matter how much we learn, we still kind of end up in a very similar place a lot of the time. Every time that we think we have it figured out and now I'm in a good place and you think you've kind of put it behind you, something come and you're right back there. Or maybe nothing come. Maybe you wake up and poof, there it is. You know? For no apparent reason. That was an unfortunate place for that mic, huh? You know, there's dealing with mind on the level of mind. And that's basically what psychology does. And that's not really to poo-poo psychology. Lots of benefits to psychology, particularly how predictable our behavior is. I think psychology does a wonderful job of just seeing how we all behave in very similar ways. But that will only get you so far. And it will get you somehow comfortable in your discomfort, you know? In Satsang, we go beyond all that, go beyond all the discomfort. There are times in life where you're like, I got this. You know what I mean? I feel better. I feel so good. I feel amazing. And wow, and like all the clouds part and you feel amazing. And you're thinking, finally, I've arrived, right? But then something happens inside. Something shifts inside. And what happens is that when you're experiencing that very clear, beautiful place where you think you've had it all figured out and you're just like, yes, this is it. In that moment, there's no pain. But then somehow, pain comes back. pain comes back. Negative thoughts come back. Negative thoughts feed the pain. Pain feeds negative thoughts. And no matter how much you know, no matter how many satsangs you come to, no matter how many books you've read, no matter how many therapists you've seen, you're right back in the shit. And you're thinking, when am I going to figure this out? You'll spend your whole life figuring out. This is not a figuring out. We have a saying at the Peaceful Mind Center, you figured it out once you figure out that there's nothing to figure out. So let me read to you my note from this week. Then we'll start the conversation there. Your pain is the key. You don't fear what will happen in life. You fear how it will make you feel inside. So let's stop there. Because I want to always work on the fine minutia of that. It's not what happens outside that's really the problem, right? It's how you feel inside that's the problem. Do you see this? You know, we can feel really, really ridiculously terrible inside. Is it just me? And it's pretty amazing how terrible we can feel. That's the problem. The problem is not what happened. The problem is what goes on in here.
Doesn't that problem trigger?
Microphone?
Doesn't that outside problem trigger how you feel inside?
Yes. But if you don't feel that way inside, then there's nothing to be triggered. So it starts with the pain that you already have inside, and then something come along and bring that to the surface. So in other words, the thing outside of you is not the cause of the pain. The thing outside of you just shined a light on the pain or made the pain active that was already there. Make sense? We make the mistake of thinking that it's what happened, that's what's causing my pain out there. Not really. Not really. Because another person could be in that circumstance and it wouldn't cause them any pain because they don't have that, whatever that is. So it's not this like universal experience that everybody experiences the same way. Not even death. There are cultures that celebrate death. They don't mourn it. It's a wonderful thing when someone dies. You are a different person when you are in pain. True or false? True. Totally true. It's the strangest thing. You must realize that you are unconsciously generating the pain for yourself. Do you think that's true? Is that true for you? That you're generating the pain for yourself?
Yeah, when someone at work had said something and done something that was really cruel and hurtful, and it hurt me at that moment. You know, I felt it inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, like 5-10 hours later, you know, you're reading, and all of a sudden it flashes back, like you're like numb. You're
Yeah.
having a flashback. And that feeling went through me, and I said to myself, okay, that was on them when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is on me.
Right. Very good. Yeah, very good.
So you have to be conscious
Yeah.
that if you're replaying it, refeeling it, now it's on you.
Right.
And you have a choice. You can, you know, choose to let it go and work through it and forgive, or just whatever you want to do. And
Well, the first thing that Sherry did, right, was realize, hey, I'm doing this to me. You know what I mean? I'm hitting myself in the head with the bat, and I got to put the bat down. Very interesting, you know, how that works. Yeah. It's so easy to torture yourself, isn't it? Like, wow. I don't know why it's so easy to be. Yeah. It's really, really important that you see that you create that for yourself. And I don't want you to see, remember, I don't ever want you to believe anything that I say. Okay? I always want you to hold it up to what you're experiencing and see if that helps make clear what you're experiencing. That pain does not exist outside of you. So it's got to be coming from in here. Somehow this psychological formation, this mind-body, is creating this really serious internal pain.
So my question is, if it's someone at work that is, you know, you can brush that off. Is it on?
Yes. Yeah, just point it at your mouth like you're
But
eating ice
if
cream
it's
cone.
somebody that's very close to you,
Mm-hmm.
I know this is like an issue that I'm having because I can't stand having conflict
Mhm.
with anybody in my
Mhm.
life, let alone a family member or someone close.
Mm-hmm.
But I have an issue that happened with my sister,
Mhm.
and you said once about feeling like you've been wronged,
Mhm.
and you're defending yourself.
Mhm.
Those weren't your exact words,
Mhm.
but how do you get to the point where you are able to be forgiving, but also feel that, well, you know, I was taken advantage of a little bit, or
Mhm.
I was treated poorly a little bit.
Mhm.
I know that's really more ego feeling, but how do you
Let me
let go
just
of that?
let me digress for a moment. That you first said oh darn it, I lost it. Give me a second. That you don't like conflict, right? Is it really conflict that you don't like? Or is it the way you feel inside in the face of conflict? Because they're not the same thing. Yeah, you can just...
I guess I don't like how I feel.
See, you got to notice the difference. It's not that I don't like conflict or have a problem with conflict. It's that when somehow conflict arises, somehow even disagreement arises, I generate this really garbage, painful state inside me. And that's what I don't like about the conflict. I might rather enjoy being in conflict if I didn't have the pain, and what I mean by that is standing up for myself. Or just speaking my truth. Because sometimes speaking your truth is a problem for somebody else. So does that mean that you don't speak your truth? No, but if you speak your truth and it creates conflict and then you feel terrible inside, you're not going to speak your truth. And when you don't speak your truth, you're doing a real disservice to your relationships. And what you're really doing is avoiding pain.
And building up resentment.
and building up resentment on top of that, right? So, and then you know what happens. The resentment is like a spring. You push it down, 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 and then one day somebody, and boing, you're just, yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
Precisely.
And it's, but what most of us are doing in life is not really living life and moving toward what we love and living in our truth. We're just avoiding pain. We're avoiding the uncomfortable situations. We're trying to stay out of, circumstances that we start to feel pain inside, and so we avoid. Aversion. There's attachment and aversion. And aversion is just as much a cause of suffering as attachment. Attachment's just a little easier to see.
I have a question.
Tell me your name again.
I'm Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Hi. Yeah, my question is, wouldn't we want to stay away? There's toxic people in this world who are just mean. You know, like you say something and out of the clear blue sky, they come off at you over nothing. So these kind of people, wouldn't it be normal to just stay away from them? Because you don't want to, they're not going to change, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, you get to decide, what energy you really want to be in most of the time. But the truth is that when you are residing as the self is loving kindness, compassion, patience. It's not a mental, I need to be kind to people. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. Like the sun shining in all directions. Our nature is just love shining in all directions, right? And so when you're residing as the self, and the ego is gone, the moods or the toxic people or however they are, you are unaffected by that. Now, Casey, if you're watching this, I'm going to mention you. I had a student one time that was watching like an Animal Planet show, and they were rescuing dogs or something like that. And the person who was working with the dogs, and the dogs were wounded and messed up, she said, the animals that are the most wounded are the ones that are the most likely to bite the people trying to help them. So, you apply that to your human pets, and it starts to make sense. One of the things that we really have to be skilled at, or what really is very useful to be skilled at, is really seeing another person's suffering. When someone is behaving that way, how do you think they feel inside? What do you think their inner state is like? Hell, a real, for real, proverbial shit show. And you have to be able to see that and understand that, and allow compassion to flow through you. It doesn't mean you have to wallow in it. It doesn't mean you have to fix it. But it's in body, speech, and mind. Perhaps there's something compassionate you can do. If not, perhaps there's something compassionate you can say. If not, there's something compassionate you can think. And send good energy toward that person. Because that person is suffering. When someone has a broken leg, very easy to be compassionate. When someone has a broken mind, we want to knock them over the head. And a broken mind is way more painful than a broken leg. And, think about your worst days. Think about your pain. Think about how bad it's got for you. And then look around you. Everybody else has had that same day, or that same week, or that same year. It's not just you. And when you begin to realize that everyone around you is really suffering and in pain, you just want to go around giving everybody a hug. Like, I'm sorry, yeah, this sucks. I don't know why it's so hard to be human. But it's hard for me. It's hard for you. It's hard. And it's hard because we don't understand how we generate pain for ourselves. If you're not in pain and someone is being how you just described, you won't be affected by it. But if you're around someone and pain starts to come up in you, now you're affected. And it changes the way you be with them, the way you choose, the way you think, the way you perceive them, the way you perceive yourself. There's no clarity in that. That's the difference. That's the difference. There's you when you're in pain, and there's you when you're not in pain. And you when you're not in pain is an awesome person, right? And you when you're in pain, that's when you start cursing people out and flipping people off on the road and doing all kinds of, because I'm in pain and it's your fault. And I can't fix my pain, so I'm going to make you feel the pain that I feel. Because that's the only way I can level the playing field. It's the only way I can get any satisfaction. And do you get satisfaction from that? No, you feel like an ass. Pardon my gutter mouth today. Just seems appropriate.
I don't know. Sometimes for like a minute, you feel like for like a second.
For a minute, your ego is satisfied, but then what happens?
And then it's not good.
And then you feel terrible. Because who here would ever hurt another person on purpose? Not even close, right? No one ever wants to do that. And when you do hurt someone by accident, how does that feel? Awful, right? So this is something that we don't want to happen. This is all happening unconsciously. But when you're in pain is when you're much, much, much more likely to hurt someone else. So when someone hurts you, what do you know?
They're in pain.
They're in pain. There's a lot of pain in this world, in this human world. There really is. People feel pain so easily. It comes up so easily.
There's times where I may have accidentally done something and hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
And I've had friends or family where then they turn around and do it on purpose to me.
Yeah.
To show me how it felt. And that would upset me because I'd say there's a big difference. To do it accidentally and then do it with the intention of hurting me takes it to a whole nother playing field.
Yeah.
And what I came to realize is that in that moment that person is suffering and is in pain and they lash out. So even though there's still that twinge when it happens, I treat them with kindness. And I say, that's not right. So you don't have to be a doormat when people are toxic or they do bad behavior. You can talk to them, like you said, in kindness and see them for what's going on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you still don't feel hurt.
You used a different phrase.
Yeah.
Before, when you said sometimes you have to speak to people, you have to speak with, no. It was like a firmness or something.
But
when you say before, today or?
Yeah, earlier.
Oh, another night. Okay.
You
Yeah.
said forceful,
Forceful energy.
something like
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can be kind and compassionate in that moment. You have a choice. You always have a choice.
And the thing too, though, like, recognize this in yourself. If you're not in pain, it doesn't matter what anybody else says to you. True? It's when you're in pain, you're a different person. When you're not in pain, life is really fun. We generate this pain for ourselves unconsciously. We would never, ever, ever do it consciously. So we know it's unconscious. And even when we're doing it and it's there, we can't even really consciously stop it a lot of the time. Because we would if we could. That's why people drink and do drugs and other addictive type of things, because they're in pain and they just don't know what else to do. And they can't get rid of it. So they drink a beer, the pain goes away for a while, problem solution, right? But then, the beer, the drug, or whatever becomes a source of even more pain, and now you're on that crazy hamster wheel, that cycle of addiction, that the thing you're using to placate the pain is the cause of the pain. And relationships can be very addictive, When you need somebody in your life to be a certain way, or you need somebody in your life to be your source of happiness, guess what? That person becomes God in your world. When they're up, you're up. When they're down, you're down. Classic codependency. But, you can tell, like, when that person stops behaving the way you want them to behave, you start to feel pain. The moment that happens, you're in an addictive situation, because the root of addiction is pain. Where there's no pain, there's no addiction. You have to have a serious pain first, right? And then comes the solution to that pain. And then the thing that is the solution to the pain starts to become a source of the pain. Without pain, you don't need any addictive behavior. It wouldn't be addictive, because pain drives addiction. So if you're in pain about a relationship, then that relationship takes on addictive qualities. When that person is behaving the way you think they should and you feel somehow secure, you feel great. And then when they start acting funny and you start feeling pain, now you got to get them to behave a certain way, otherwise you're in pain. And that's why you have such a problem with the way that they're being. If you weren't in pain, you wouldn't care. You know when someone cares about you. You know when they don't. It's really obvious. When someone wants to be with you, nothing will stop them. And it won't be hard. It'll be fun. And when they don't, just say okay. Just say yes to that. But when they don't, you feel rejection, you feel pain, you think they're the source of your pain, you get angry with them. And then it's just pain, 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 pain. When you sit and you just kind of allow your situation to be as it is, see it clearly, when pain comes, you just bring consciousness to the pain, which is the last thing everybody does. When you have pain, what do? Run for the hills. You want it off, you want it off, you want it away from you. But what can pain do to you? What is pain? That's a weird question. I don't know.
Mental and physical is receptors.
Mm-hmm. What is pain? Hmm?
Pain's it's a figment. It's something that we experience, but it's not something that's actually real.
Yeah, nothing's really real other than what's in our mind, really, right? But what is pain, though? Like, just think of it a little less esoterically, a little more obviously. An emotion. We spend all of our life trying to get rid of our pain. I ask what pain is, and nobody knows. I'm starting to see the problem.
What's that word when there's no word to describe the word?
Ineffable.
Anybody? Pain is just a sensation. That's it. That's all it is. What can pain do to you? Pain can do nothing to you. Nothing. Pain itself can do nothing to you. It's just an uncomfortable sensation. If you get stung by a bee or bit by a fire ant, you would have an uncomfortable uncomfortable sensation. Someone punches you, you feel an uncomfortable sensation. It's just an uncomfortable sensation. It's just a sensation. But that sensation motivates us. Motivates negative thoughts, you know? It's what that pain can, the cascading effect that can start to happen when the pain shows up. But you got to get that pain is just a sensation. Mm-hmm. It's just a sensation. Eh, What do you think? It might be said that happiness is the absence of pain. But pain is just a sensation. When you see it that way, isn't it much more harmless? It's really harmless. Pain is harmless. And pain can be useful. Let me share a story before we get to your question, Greg. There's a member of the Peaceful Mind Center that I know, very good friend of the Peaceful Mind Center, and name's Big Ed. And Big Ed had this condition that he couldn't feel pain. Like physical pain. How awesome is that? See? Dangerous. Very dangerous. He broke his leg one time. He didn't know it. Burned himself. You know what I mean? Like, you think like, wow, a life without pain, that's awesome. Your pain is telling you something. Your pain is feedback. Now that doesn't mean you want to wallow in it. But I thought it was such an issue. I'd never met anybody that didn't experience pain. I was like, wow, that's cool. It's like, no, it's not that cool. Hurt myself lots of times really bad because I couldn't feel pain. I couldn't tell when I was hurt. I couldn't tell when something was up. So now pain comes up in you. We're talking about this emotional, mental pain. What is this pain telling me? That's the question to ask yourself. What is this pain pointing me to? What is this pain trying to get me to see? Because if everything was balanced and in alignment, I wouldn't be feeling it. What is this pain trying desperately to bring into consciousness that is not in consciousness? Okay, now your pain has a usefulness. And 9 out of 10 times, your pain is pointing you to your own garbage belief system about yourself. Because what other people believe about you does not matter. But what you believe about yourself, that is your reality. And if you believe you're some piece of crap, if you believe you're not attractive, if you believe, that nothing's ever going to work out for you and nobody wants you and all this other stuff, then you're right. Because your mind will find evidence of what it wants to believe. So your whole world is colored by your own negative core belief system about yourself. And so your mind body is telling you, hey, this is BS. Stop believing this stuff. It's going to make it painful for you to believe this stuff. I got to get you to look here, so if I make it painful, you look here. But for most people, they don't quite put that together. They're just like, I'm in pain. I got to run. And so they never learn the lesson from the pain. They don't use the pain as a compass to point them in the right direction. We're all here because of our pain. Greg?
I thought what you just said was extremely valuable, so thanks. The question I had was, and you've already answered a lot of it, which is really understanding the word pain versus I'm very familiar with, mind-induced suffering, if you will.
Yes.
I can identify that. I can tell you what it is. But when you just asked before, what does pain feel like? I can tell you what a bee sting feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really recognize it. And then it goes right to my head, and then I start telling you. Or I would describe the pain and suffering. So that's what I'm trying to catch it before it gets here.
Right. Perfect segue. Okay? Because what happens is that we start to feel this pain, right? And whether you realize it or not, you get sucked up into your head. Do you notice this? You start to feel pain, and you start this incessant, thinking, typically negative thinking, because your mind is trying to somehow placate the pain, trying to ease the pain, and we're intelligent beings, and so our go-to is thinking. But typically when you're in pain, it induces negative thinking, very negative thinking, and then the pain feeds on the negative thinking. So now the pain comes. The pain then provokes negative thoughts, and then it's just popcorn for it. It's just like, all right, now I'm going to be here a while, And this is what's happening. So the first important thing is that you realize the mechanism of what's happening and how it's happening. Pain is just a sensation. Can't do anything to you. But it is pointing you to something, right? Because something's causal. And sometimes you'll know it's causal, sometimes you won't. Many, many times you won't even know. But a good question to ask yourself in those moments is, where am I not okay with me right now? Because even if you're not okay with your circumstances, there's a part of you that understands, circumstances come, circumstances go. What's the hook here? Why am I hooked? when you bring consciousness to pain and you realize that pain is just a sensation, you can stop it here. You know what I mean? You can stop it before it gets up in your head and starts affecting the way that you think. You can just say, okay, there's some pain there. Let me just breathe it out. Let me just allow it to be. Let me bring my consciousness to it. And let me just let this sensation express itself. And be unaffected by it. You can have a lot of pain inside you and be unaffected by it, meaning that it doesn't take over your mind. Once it takes over your mind, you're affected by it. But if you remain as the observer of the sensation and you don't allow it to hijack your thoughts, you're fine, even if the pain is there. You may sometimes, if you want to play with it a little bit, is you'll notice that you can start, like you bring your consciousness to your pain. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll bring my consciousness to the pain, and just by bringing my consciousness to the pain, it has an effect on it. I can feel it moving, morphing. I can feel my attention having an effect on it. It tends to break up. But I can also use it to dig out like some garbage thoughts I have about myself. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll pay attention to the pain, and then I'll start like thinking thoughts about what I think might be involved. You know what I mean? Like around what might be. And I'll say, okay, I'm not good enough, or something like that, or nobody wants me, or something. And all of a sudden I'll hit a thought and it goes bring, and like you hit this thought and you feel the energy move in your chest. Do you know what I'm talking about? And then you can start thinking thoughts like related to that thought, and you may be able to write them down, and you may be able to kind of dig out some cognitive things, some vasanas that need to be seen. And which really ultimately are always about your belief system about yourself. You know, what do I believe about me? Because if you believe that you're a wonderful person and that you're a beautiful person and that you're completely content with who you are and who you're not, anybody can say anything to you and it just wouldn't matter, positive or negative. And if you even go beyond even all of that, you know, I mean, eventually you'll go beyond the whole mind-created self. All of it is just mind garbage, you know. It's your mind that tells you that life needs to be a certain way. People need to be a certain way. It needs to look like this. It needs to happen this way. You need to treat me that way. That's all garbage. It's all just a waste of time. Because what's happening is just what's happening. It's what your mind does with what's happening. And you're looking at everything that's happening through the lens of your belief system about yourself. I don't know why we hate ourselves so much. You gonna say something? Yeah. Would you like to? Would you give you a mic? Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can leave those on.
It is on.
Okay.
Okay, so, I talked to you one time about grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time I come and I try to relate this, because I lost my son, and, I'm trying to listen to you. So my pain, my pain about my son, what does that, are you saying has something to do with my belief system? Because I don't get that. You know, I told you I did a lot of work. I've processed.
Yeah.
My son committed suicide. So there was a lot of work to do around that. I did feel guilty, you know, all that stuff.
Mhm.
But in the end, it's like, has it pointed me in some directions? Yes. You know, I also told you, you know, doing things to honor him, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, the pain is still there, even though I know some of what I did to honor him helped others. But in the end, you're saying cut the pain off here. I can't. Like the pain goes to the, you know.
Well, when the pain comes, does it affect your mind? Does it come up into your mind and affect the way that you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not really what I think about me.
Mhm. Are you certain of that?
No.
You know, listen. You know, the loss of a child is something that you're always going to feel pain about. Okay, let's just be real about it. It's not something you're ever going to be happy about, and I don't want to, you know, I don't ever want you to think that you're going to stop being human.
No,
Yeah.
I know that piece of the pain, you know, the grief I feel for losing my son. But the fact that that pain greatly affects other things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do with that. I mean, I have 2 other children, but I basically feel since Paul passed that I'm a horrible mother to them.
Okay.
You know, I'm not the same person in any capacity. As a partner, as my job, you know, really anything, how I feel about myself.
Your belief system about yourself. You know, what happened with Paul happened. And it's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the past is in your present right now.
Right.
There, you know, I can't say for certain, but it seems as though that what you're saying is pointing to that somehow that experience has affected your belief system about yourself, and probably in a negative way. And how do we know that that's likely there? You know, because of the pain that you're feeling, because of the way that it's you know, affecting, you know, the way that you're being in your other relationships in your life. You can see the effects of it, but you're not really seeing the cause.
Right.
The pain is there, you know what I mean? And it's somehow related to what you believe about yourself in the wake of that experience. And then it's affecting, you know, the way that you're being. And this is why I always say we're different people when we're in pain. Now, what you would have to do is you would have to really take a look at what decisions you made about yourself in the wake of that experience. And listen, those negative beliefs, those negative things that you may have thought about yourself are not true. You know, they say that children are born through you and not to you, and they're not yours. And every being come here to experience something. And Paul had an experience. And who are we to say that that experience is not the experience that he should have had? You know, if Paul were here right now, would he be wanting you to suffer that experience?
He's here.
He's here. What do you think he would say? I'm okay, Ma. You know, like, it's just what happened. It wasn't about you. I'm still working on it, you know? You know, his journey didn't stop. It just changed.
I'm just trying so hard every time I listen to you to relate what you're saying to what I feel. You know,
Yeah.
Is it my resistance that I keep going? Yeah, but, yeah, but I don't know.
There's
you know?
there's a couple of things going on, okay? And I think that one of the things that you can do that I think will help quickly is to change your relationship to your pain. Because I don't know how likely it is that the pain will be gone, right? So if the pain is going to be there, you know, how can you change your relationship to that pain? And that's to lose identification with the pain. Like, you can't identify as a person in pain. Now, I always say that identity is a very important word in these satsangs, okay? Identity means I am this. You know, I am identified as this. This is what I am, okay? When you lose identification with your pain, then the pain goes back to just being a sensation and not you. Because here's the thing. If someone come and they're identified as pain, and I start to say, hey, let's pull that pain away, this is what I get. I can't let you take my pain because I don't know who
What will I
am
be without my pain?
without it.
Okay, thank you.
You know, we've had some people having some really interesting experiences with Reiki too. And I don't know if you're familiar. Have you done Reiki? It really helps, you know, release some energy. It really helps bring you to, say again? Healing, and you know, like, it helps you experience states of presence that are not cognitive, you know? Well, just, I will, I promise. You know, an experience that profound holds within it the possibility of extraordinarily profound realizations. And so perhaps a question to ask yourself is, how can I use this tragic experience that's very painful for me on the path of enlightenment? Because sometimes it's something so difficult like that that cracks you out of identification with mind. Eckhart Tolle describes that in the beginning of The Power of Now, his experience. But I appreciate you so much sharing that. I really do, and I think that help a lot of people, okay? Well, thank you.
Well, I have a question then. What's the quickest way to change your relationship to pain? Because, you know, I had a tremendous pain with the death of my father, but I changed that relationship quite a long time ago. Still a hole there, but I just remember all the beautiful times we had together.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have different pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to let go of that one. So, you know, that proves the point that you just said. There is a way to transcend that, but okay.
It's the first thing that you do is that you realize that your pain is just a sensation. And when I say change your relationship with your pain, what I'm saying is that instead of the pain being you, instead of being identified with and as your pain, you realize yourself as the observer of the pain. Now, look to your own experiencing. When you're experiencing pain, do you realize that there is the one that is aware that the pain is there that is not really in pain? Everybody's looking in a different direction right now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Say that again into the mic, will you?
What did I say? Not usually. Usually when you're in pain, it feels so encompassing. Like your entire body and soul is in pain and suffering. It doesn't feel like something separate that you can witness.
Right. Right. You see that? No, I'm the one that's in pain. I am in pain. Who is the one that is aware of the pain? And is that one in pain? I still have pain. I still experience pain. It's not me. I just watch it like I watch the bowl. I feel it, I experience it. But my relationship to pain is not I am in pain. My relationship to my pain is I am aware that there is this sensation in my chest. And I am the one watching it. So when pain arises in me, I am unaffected by it. Even if it gets up into the thoughts, and the thoughts are negative, I am the one aware of the negative thoughts. Now I'm watching, okay, my pain is now bringing up negative thoughts, have your party. It's not me. The self is in boundless equanimity. The self is just experiencing. And there's not good experience or bad experience. It's only experience. The moment you say good or bad experience, you've just rolled out the red carpet for your ego to come in and start telling God how things should be when things are the way that they are. Things are the way that they are. It's your reaction to them. That's the issue. It's your relationship to them. It's you needing people, places, and things, life to be a certain way. It's you thinking that you know better than the intelligence that created all of this how things should be. Isn't that a bit grandiose of you? How many times has the most difficult circumstances been some of the best things you've ever experienced in your life? Best by saying, what I mean by best is that really moved you to a more clear place, moved you to a more clear seeing. You look back at that point in your life and you go, man, that really was terrible. But look at where I moved from there. As you go on this path, you begin to listen to the whispers. You begin to hear the messages in their subtle form. Because what the universe has to do, if you're not listening, is turn the volume up. And you don't want that.
Sometimes it's a good.
Mike?
Sometimes the universe turns the volume up in the most wonderful ways and keeps bringing it to you, keeps dropping it in your lap. Because if you're not paying attention, sometimes it keeps coming.
Yeah, I mean, that happens too. It's not all suffering, thank goodness, right? But really it's just kind of how you be with things is the only thing that matters. We really think that we suffer our circumstances, but we really don't. We suffer our internal reactions to these circumstances. And when pain arises in us, it takes us over.
This is like a half question, half. So, are you proposing then, or teaching us, I guess, that meditation is the way to separate these two things? And I'll give you a little.
What two things? Let
Well,
me just stop you.
I understand exactly what you're saying in this sense. Let's say Sherry's house burned down. I could understand that she's in pain and, this is all, but I wouldn't feel that.
Right.
But if my house burned down, it would be a total disaster.
Yeah, right.
I can't separate from that. But you're saying I should be able to separate from that pain the way I never was connected to.
Well, first of all, don't ever should on yourself here. Okay.
Well, all right.
All right.
Okay.
Should is a very shaming word, and there's nothing that you should do. So
Right.
to leave that, it's could and would. Okay. More of what I'm saying is that, like, if it's someone outside of you that something happens to that you don't have a direct connection to, you don't get that pain usually. You don't get that like shock. What I'm saying is that even when the pain and the shock is there, you're the one observing it. So it can still be there, right? But you, the awareness, is unaffected by it. So in the case where you're looking at someone else, there's really just no pain there for you to deal with, right?
All right.
So there's just no pain for you to deal with. And so that's easy, right? What I'm saying is that when the pain is there for you to deal with, you know what I mean, that you just watch it. That you don't let it affect you. That you realize that it's just a sensation and that you don't need it to motivate you. You may be able to use it, as a compass, you know what I mean, to guide yourself through your own mind. You know what I mean? To see what your own mind is creating for you. Because the strange part about this is that you are creating this for you. No one is creating it for you. This is why I've spent my whole life studying the mind. Well, my whole adult life. Studying the mind. Because your world is your mind. Your mind is your world. Period. It's the most important thing. It's the only thing. What happens is happening karmically. There's a karmic unfolding. Everything is interrelated, right? And everything affects everything. And it's just kind of, life is just kind of unfolding. And karma is so complex, don't bother trying to figure it out. Mere mortals can't figure it out. But what's happening is happening. And the only thing that matters is what happens inside you in the face of what's happening. That's the only thing that matters. That's what makes it either a desirable or undesirable experience. How can I prove that to you so simply? You put two people in the exact same circumstances, and they're having completely different experiences. I like to use the one of people flying on the plane. One person has a fear of flying, the other one doesn't. They're sitting right next to each other. This one's completely full of anxiety and stress. This one's sipping a soda watching a movie. Same exact surroundings. It's not the surroundings. It's this and this. You are a different person when you are in pain. Realize that. You are the one that is aware that that sensation is there. It's just a sensation. Okay, I'm feeling this sensation. You can perhaps do some journaling about it, some mind mapping about it, or write down and say, why am I feeling this and where is it coming from and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? To perhaps, it's easier to let go of, when you can see what you're trying to let go of sometimes. But ultimately, you can take your attention away from it. Now, this is why practice is so important and why meditating every day is so important. Because you're becoming a skilled practitioner. You're training your attention, okay? Where your attention goes. Where your attention goes, so goes your experiencing. So if you can put your attention where you want it to be, you're a very skilled practitioner. Because 99 out of 100 times, your attention is just going wherever the hell it wants to go. It's like Super Mario just driving the cart all over the place. Because when you're in pain, your attention is either in the past or the future. When you're present, when your attention is fully in this moment and past and future are gone, because if you're really present, present is not thinking about the present. You are being fully just in the moment, just aware. Past and future disappear. When past and future disappear, all your problems, all your anxiety, all your worry, it all disappears. And I'm telling you this because I want you to see what's going on, and I want you to know what you're practicing. This is so important. You have to really understand what to practice and then to practice in order for it to be fruitful. Okay? And so that's why you got to ask me questions. You got to let me know what you're confused about, so that I can help you be clear about where you're a little misguided in your practice. The first place in your practice that you're misguided is that you don't practice. You don't have to tell me that one. You got to practice. You really got to take training your mind seriously. You got to get up every day and ask yourself, how can I create the causes and conditions for my mind to be in the most peaceful state it can possibly be in today? I live my life as there's only one day in my life. That day is today. And it's the only day that I live. And I try to live that day to the best of my ability, creating the causes and conditions for my mind to be peaceful, and doing my best to enjoy that day as much as I possibly can. And to really break it down to each moment and to each breath, and to be present to all of it, to really stay out of my mind. Because we're in pain. We're in pain. We're different people when we're in pain. There's a lot of people in pain, and there's a spectrum of pain. You know what I mean? It can be just a very subtle pain. It doesn't have to be a big, thunderous pain. It could be just this low-level unease, this low-level anxiety just below the surface that's always with us. Let's be present to that. Let's observe that sensation. Let's tell our mind, hey mind, we don't need that, right? Let's not produce that for ourselves. Just stop it. We don't need to do that, because part of it is just habituation. We were born into a world that is very uneasy, very anxious, very upset. And so, that's kind of normal. Someone's like walking around in this world calm, and they're like some weirdo, What do you think of this weirdo? Nothing upsets him. What's wrong with you? You watch the news? It's unusual to be calm. It's unusual to be present. It's unusual to be without pain. It's unusual to be, withdrawn and, not withdrawn and protected, It's unusual. So you see that you're in a world full of beings that are behaving this way. You know what I mean? So you can see how some of that conditioning, how your mind got wired that way. Microphone, please. Is there a mic over there, Kim? No.
Okay, so let's put you. I don't know that gentleman's
Uh-oh.
name, but I'm not going to use him. Well, I'd like to use you. And your house just burnt down today. So, how do you? The way I was understanding you is he was supposed to observe his pain about that.
The Dalai Lama said that if you have a problem and you have a solution, then you have no problem, right? And he said if you have a problem and you don't have a solution, well, then you still don't have a problem. My house burnt down. It's in the past. There's only one thing to do. Start sweeping up. That's it. I mean, there might be emotions in me about that. There might be fears and insecurity and uncertainty. But that's not going to drive my bus.
Okay.
When I say that I would be unaffected by that, I really want to be clear that that kind of stuff will be inside me. Okay? I don't want to set you up to think that that stuff shouldn't be there. Okay? Because then you're going to have a false idea of what your practice is supposed to be, and you think, oh, my practice doesn't work because I'm still feeling this stuff. No. I'd be feeling that stuff, sweeping up the mess. Being present to it. And you know what the first thing that would go through my mind is? After, why does God hate me? The second thing is, what is the opportunity here? What is the opportunity here? What is the universe trying to get me to see that I can't see? Where is the universe leading me? The whole Peaceful Mind Center, the way we got to the Duncan Center. You want to laugh. Here's a real life story. Some of you were around back then, right? Remember this? We had this beautiful, outside Murakami. If you make a left before you go up the hill to the museum, there's some woods back there. And there was a beautiful gazebo. I mean, easily the size of this room, probably bigger, And we used to have satsang there on Saturday morning, out in the woods. It was really beautiful, And it was free, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. And I come there one time, and they got it all roped off because it's listing a little bit this way, and I always knew it was doing that. But there were no gussets. I used to be a carpenter. Right? Well, I'm still a carpenter, but there were no gussets to hold it straight. It was easy, $5,000 in material, just that that gazebo. It had a full, shingled roof over the top. And all they had to do was take a machine, like a front end loader, push it straight, tie gussets in, and it would have been fine. They knocked it down and scrapped it. And I called them and I begged them not to do it. And they just did it. I explained everything, what they needed to do. They just didn't want to deal with it. I'm thinking, all right, what now? So we fumbled around a little bit and we ended up at Las Ventanas. And so we went, because one of the things about having satsang out in the woods like that was we had a men's room, but we didn't have a ladies' room. And so, it was, and when it was hot, and there were drawbacks. It's sometimes tough to be consistent. Sometimes other people would come and want to use it, so we would be off to the side sitting in the woods. And so then we end up at Las Ventanas. Now, Las Ventanas had a beautiful, beautiful clubhouse that we got to use, and it was just gorgeous. Beautiful, huge movie room. I made a big banner of a Bodhi tree that I would sit under. It was like really cool. And then we were there for a while, right? And then somebody comes along and buys the whole apartment complex. And I sat and talked with them about the program, and they were just completely unconscious. They had no idea what I was talking about. And I knew that was over, Now what? Long story short, I get in a conversation with the Duncan Center, and they were wonderful to me. And the energy here is really good. And I'd always wanted a place like this that was a conference center. And we can do our fireside satsangs out in the back and all this other. And it was like everything. And they've been very reasonable. I have a wonderful relationship with them. And here we are now at the Duncan Conference Center. And if any of you were around Las Ventanas, at that point I had a real clear understanding that everything was opportunity. I wasn't upset about it. I'm like, we're going to find a place. Something is going to come. The universe is trying to move us somewhere. And here we are. And at Las Ventanas, remember we had that big, actually this stage is built out of the wood from that, or at least part of it anyway. And I made a cart because there was no place to store anything. So I made a cart that was like 6 feet long, 4 feet wide, 3 feet high, put wheels on it, and we had to pack everything up, wheel it into the other building afterward. It was just like, wow. So, for me, one of the most freeing realizations that you will ever have in your life is that life is bound to impermanence and change. It is always changing. We're literally not the same people that walked in the door a few hours ago. And so when you see that clearly and change comes, you just embrace change. You just roll with change. You just go with change. And whatever happens, happens. And you're just kind of surfing it like a wave. And so, being in my practice for so long, seeing that so clearly, these changes that were happening, I was looking for the opportunities in all of them. And, sometimes the opportunity doesn't come till the 11th hour, But they're just, I don't know, there just seem to be a gift in every experience. No matter how bad, no matter how good, it just came with armfuls of gifts. We're here and we're just experiencing. We are experiencing. Okay? It's the ego that wants to say this is a good experience and this is a bad experience. You got to kick that ego out. It's just experiencing. That's all it is. It's just experiencing. And in the end, we're all going to the same place. And we don't get to know when that happens. It's weird. But all the more reason to be in the moment and enjoy the hell out of this moment. Because we're here now. And one day that's not going to be the case. Now, I don't say that to be morbid. I say that to take some pressure off of you. Relax. He who dies with the most debt wins. Bye. You okay? Yeah. Okay. Mm. You know, I've been studying this for a very long time. And sometimes I sit back and I wonder, you know, what would it be like for me to be hearing these things like again for the first time? Like what would I hear? What would it sound like? You know, because all of this makes perfect sense to me now. And you know, I encourage you to be here and be consistent. And when you can't be here, you know, review the satsangs online. I downloaded today, like the last 2 months of satsangs. I have not gotten them on YouTube, but I did put them on the computer. There's just a lot going on. I'm building us a new website, and it's just writing a book. There's just tons of things going on. And I just can't do it all. There's just more things that need to be done that I can do than I can do them. And you know, but they even when they're not on the YouTube channel, they're all immediately recorded after satsang on the Facebook page. And you can go to our Facebook page and you can click videos, and this exact unedited, the way that it is there, and they're all there. So, you know, I like to put them on YouTube too, you know, to have a little bigger audience or a different audience, or plus they're edited a little bit, not too crazy edited, but just a little bit on YouTube. But I'm doing everything I can to put this information into your hands, you know, to help point you to these realizations and this direct experiencing of transcending the mind and the thoughts in the mind, of experiencing directly that I am not the thoughts in my mind, that I am the one that is aware of the thoughts. And right now you live in a world that is completely mind identified, and that you're believing yourself to be the thoughts in your mind. And so everything that I say, your mind is going to make a concept out of, and you're going to try to understand intellectually. I want you to let that go and have a direct experiencing of transcendence. Because once that happens, then your relationship to your pain changes. Because you realize that there is a self that is observing the pain, and you realize that. Not you know in your head, okay, I'm the one watching the pain. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It's not a mental understanding. It's a direct experiencing, and that really happens in practice, in particularly meditation practice. So practice, bring your questions, tell me what you're not understanding, because this can be difficult to understand. I think that I can make this very complicated teaching as understandable as possible. I don't know of anyone that makes it as simple to understand as I do. That I can show this to you in a very practical, pragmatic way, not ask you to believe anything, just trying to help you see how your mind-body works and what it is to be human clearly. You have to bring your questions. You got to practice and tell me what you don't understand so I can help point you. Okay? I don't know what's going on for you. I don't know what you're hearing. I don't know what you're experiencing. So you can even write your questions down and bring them to satsang. And your questions are going to help everybody else. You know? It's time to meditate. Are there any last comments or questions? Sure. Microphone? Would you pass that microphone on?
the meditation.
Okay.
So I have been trying.
Might get a hold of
every day.
We'll get you trained.
I know, right? So I mean, how long? So sometimes I'll sit with I'll pull up one of our things on Facebook and I'll just listen to the beginning or
perfect.
take it to the end.
Yeah.
But and then sometimes I've been trying to just sit quietly by myself. That didn't work so well last night because all three of my dogs were fighting over the bones at the same time. So that didn't work. But I don't know how long. Sometimes I find like if I set myself for 10 minutes and I find 7 minutes I'm pushing away thoughts. And then the last 3 minutes I'm finally feel like I'm a little quieter. So then I gotta stop the timer and then I'm out of it.
Well, here, in the beginning, it's typically more useful for a student to meditate more often for shorter periods of time.
Okay.
Okay? Because for most beginners, it's very difficult to sit, very difficult to hold the attention still. And after a while, you're just sitting there and the mind is just having a circus, right? And so there's not much point in that. I would rather see you sit for 5 minutes and really be able to concentrate in those 5 minutes, or 30 seconds even. And then either take a break or go about your day. 5 more minutes at lunch, 5 more minutes in the evening. You know what I mean? So that you're not, it's not necessary that more is better. You know what I mean? And then once you start to experience those states and you're starting to understand what meditation is, and you're starting to be able to hold your attention, then you can start to stretch it out a little bit. There may be a time when you're in a particularly peaceful state and you're saying, I'm slipping into that meditative state and I want to stay here for 20 or 30 minutes. Do that too. There's no hard and fast rules. You know what I mean? Be your own guru, and there's no such thing, very important, no such thing as a good meditation or a bad meditation. And what I mean by that is that, if you're sitting and your mind is very active, then you just had meditation and you observed very active mind. If you had a meditation and you're very much were resting in silence, very much no past, no future, no time, silence, just breathing and being, that's not a good meditation. That's just another meditation. You know what I mean? So, I think that my advice is definitely shorter periods of time more often, and you may find that may be more fruitful. Anybody else have any meditation questions? Yes, and mantra can help too.
I mean, YouTube has a million billion free 5-minute meditations where they do that Om or a gong.
Yeah.
Or the sound, because that may help not think.
Yep. Yeah, mantra, when my mind is particularly, and thank you for that, when my mind is particularly active, I will definitely go to mantra. Mantra just cuts that stream of thought. And when you do mantra, chant the mantra. Don't just listen to it. Like vibrate your body. Oh, you know what I mean? Like really feel it, and it will, there's a soothing effect, a calming effect, a centering effect. And then once you're done, say the YouTube video or whatever ends, stay in calm abiding meditation, because in the wake of that mantra, there's going to be some silence. See how long you can stay in that silence before the mind come knocking again. Okay? So mantra to cut the stream of thought, and then just stay in the wake of it when you can. And we'll do more of that in here too.